So how you're going to do with your practice and with any of the material. So let's start with David.
Continue with meditating this week. And noticing my mind come and go. And noticing there's always a temptation to re-engage. But once it's let it pass, there's a little compulsion to re-engage and like re-birth that thought. And that just was not coming out.
Okay. And that's Bhavna, right?
Yes,
And how are you?
good. I think I was able to do most days about 10 minutes of meditation. Towards the end of the week, it was harder to focus. But at the beginning of the week, I felt like I was able to stay on track.
And how about watching your mind?
Um, I think I think watching the mind was easier this week than it was last week. I started, I think last week I was just noticing all of the negative emotions, but this week I was far more watchful of like the positive things that were, kind of bringing me joy. And so it felt a bit more balanced. And I was like, oh, okay, this week was not too bad actually.
Good. Good. And that idea that the wanting, the craving, the attachment itself is the suffering. And were you able to see the points that there's something in common about the joy, even though the external experiences change?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. Um, and also I'm trying to give up like sugar and chocolate is my weakness. And so I was definitely kind of mindful of the craving around that and the joy that it brought, but immediately kind of the guilt that followed.
Guilt, and if you physically feel bad, and some people have a very strong reaction to sugar that it makes them actually depressed.
Yeah.
And how about you, Daryl?
Um, May have to ask for a pass for this week. I had a little bit of a physical injury on Monday, and it really it pissed me off. I couldn't get past really just thinking about not having the full capacity of my body. And I mean, as far as the awareness goes, yes, absolutely more aware of how that controls my every thought. And it was really hard to get past that.
Yeah.
Um, I wish I had something better to say, but I don't.
And again, the challenge is to not do what the Buddhists call suffer from the second arrow. What they mean by that, the first arrow is like the physical pain or the tragedy that happens in my life. The second arrow is my suffering that I superimpose upon that because I don't want it to be the way it is. Does that make sense?
Yes, and
It's the struggling, it's the fighting, it's the resistance. And in terms of physical pain, it can make it worse.
mhm. Yeah, I certainly wasn't able to get past that, and I wouldn't say it led to depression, but it definitely led to feeling down for sure for the majority of the week.
Now, you know what the difference is between someone who's 27 or 37 and someone who's 77? Something hurts all the time.
Yeah,
So you get to learn to, okay, just be with the discomfort, be with the pain in the body. It's just a sensation. You don't have to like it. But if I resist it and try to get away from it, I mean, I just take a couple ibuprofen, basically. But if it's still there, the fighting only makes it worse. And frequently, if I'm totally present to it, and just breathe into where it hurts, it starts to go away. Try it. All right. Molly, how about you?
Yes, I would say about 60% of the days I was able to at least sit down for 5 to 10 minutes. I noticed that for me, my quality of sleep and what I've put in my body that tends to have an effect on my ability to be centered in meditation. Sometimes I find like one of the days I have to resort back to counting. Um, because it was just quite erratic, and I would just witness my mind wander quite quickly. And other days it felt good and I could sit and it's a bit of a transient sort of thing that changes every day.
Do you have a challenge with good sleep?
I do.
Does anybody else? What I would recommend for you, you can find this on the Google machine. Look up Yoga Nidra
Mm.
as an exercise. And this is really helpful. Someone once asked His Holiness the Dalai Lama, he flies all over the world. And with all this change in time zones and jet lag, someone asked him, do you have trouble sleeping? And he says, no, I just do yoga nidra and I immediately go to sleep. But my body does get confused in terms of my bowel movements, he said. So that doesn't come with the same ability. So check it out. I don't want to spend a lot of time this morning in teaching it, but it's a very, very good meditation for people who have issues with sleep. Pretty simple. Yoga Nidra, Nidra. Anything else?
As far as observation, I had a few instances where I was observing, craving, but not very many. I think I need to develop a little bit more awareness of watching myself. Um, I think I just tend to let it happen, and not observe it. Well, that's something that I would like to be more conscious about, and intentional about.
And for all of us, sometimes it's not so blatant as, oh, I really want ice cream, or gee, I really want a new car. It may express itself as irritation with traffic,
Mm.
or I'm angry about the politics, or people at the supermarket aren't doing it right. This sort of stuff. Anybody ever afflicted by those sorts of things? Yes, no?
Yes,
Yeah.
It's a spiritual axiom that if I am disturbed, no matter the cause, I'm the one with the klesha, the defilement, the disturbance, the attachment, the expectation, the identification. Now, listen carefully. That doesn't mean they're right and I'm wrong. The world and its people are oftentimes quite wrong, but it doesn't have to upset me. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Anything else, Molly?
Mm-mm.
Sandra?
I I'm still finding it hard to find time to meditate. I acknowledge I'm a little lazy. in the mornings I try to sleep in as much as I can, which is not good. But I try to stay aware. I do realize that I have to like, I tell myself, I surrender, like
Right.
repeatedly versus maybe it's because I'm not meditating and doing that. I have to just like vocalize it, to not go down a path of suffering.
Now, is your family Hindu?
Yes.
Okay. We're gonna learn japa this morning, which may be of value. May be of value. Um, So I think that's a good segue into the next meditative practice. Japa is the repetition of a sacred word or phrase, usually done mentally or silently, though not always. It's spelled Japa, by the way, for Westerners, japa. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says japa is the king of yogas. In the Western tradition, there's been a great recovery of meditation practices and techniques because Christianity used to have them. And they're now in what's called contemplative prayer or centering prayer. I don't know if any of you have come in contact with some Christians who are doing that. Anybody?
No.
Yes?
No.
Oh, okay. But in that tradition, they use what's called a sacred word, which can be love or peace or Jesus or God. If you are a Muslim, you can pick a word like Allahu, Allahu, Allahu. If you're Hindu or you want a Hindu mantra, I'll give you the one my teacher gave me. Om Namah Shivaya. Om is the sound syllable for the infinite. Namah, N-A-M-A-H, means a bow or a prostration, or I do reverence. Shivaya means to or for Shiva. So it basically means Om, I bow to Shiva. Shiva means auspiciousness, and it's another name for yourself. If you have what we call an Ishtadevata, a wished for deity, you may choose a different mantra. There's nothing fancy about them. Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama. Jai Shri Hanuman, Jai Shri Hanuman. So those of you who are religious and Hindus, do you have a mantra that you use? Yes, no?
Yes.
Can you share it or were you told to keep it secret?
I mean, in my family, it was mostly the Hanuman Chalisa. And so
That's pretty long.
it's pretty long.
Yeah, that's a little bit different than a mantra.
Mm.
That's a long chant, and those are very healing. But Jai Shri Hanuman, you want something short. You want something short. Why? Because as the mind goes off on its various stories and narratives, you can bring it back with your focus on the mantra. The traditional one for Hanuman is Jai Shri Hanuman. So what you do, if your mind is noisy, you can say the mantra fast Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya. If you're really upset and angry, you can say it loud enough that the stars hear it inside your mind. As your mind gets slower, you can slow down the mantra. Jai Shri Bhagavan. Jai Shri Bhagavan. Now, we are taught how to do japa in the Mandukya Upanishad. This is the shortest and most advanced of all the Upanishads. And it's an exegesis of pranava, of Om. And it says, all this is verily Om. That which is beyond all this is Om. And then Om is divided into Chatushpada. 4 parts, 4 feet, literally, not like the 4 feet of a cow. The 4 parts of Om are A, U, Ma, and silence. We'll get into this later, but A stands for the waking state, U for the dream state, Ma for the deep sleep state, and the silence is the Turiya, yourself, the awareness, the ground of being in which all 3 mind states move. So whatever your mantra is, you always want to make sure there's some silence. It's not just a mechanical repetition. I've had people come to me and, a guru told me to chant Om Namah Shivaya 1,008 times every day. I just zip through it, That's not what it's about. It's not mechanical. It's not a spell. Now, it does have a vibrational quality. Listen very carefully. This is very interesting stuff. Who here has ever gone into an ancient temple or a church and you can feel the vibrations of the holiness, the sacredness? Anybody done that?
Yes.
And you go into a brand new church or mosque or temple, and it's very pretty architecture, but no juice, no energy. Who's had that experience?
Yes.
What's made the difference? The difference is, for some of these temples and churches, thousands and thousands and thousands of people have prayed there. Sometimes for hundreds, sometimes for thousands of years. And they leave a vibration. Many people, when they come in here, hundreds of people have meditated in this room for the past 30 years. Oh, Jim, your home is so peaceful. I just come in and I feel so peaceful. Not me, it's you. People have left the vibration of their meditation and their prayer here. Locations not only collect vibrations, but so do mantras. So if you pick a traditional mantra, it's not necessary. But if you do, mantras like Om Namah Shivaya, like Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram. Millions of people have chanted these in prayer for thousands of years. So you tune to all that energy. You tune to all that energy. So this morning, pick a mantra. Anybody have any doubts about which one they want?
What was the Krishna one you said?
Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama. Very, very powerful and famous mantra. And again, many people in the Bhakta tradition have been chanting it for thousands of years. But always let it pause and have space around it. So let's sit and we'll see how well you do with using your mantra.
So the idea is to throughout the entire meditation, just chant the mantra. That's all you're doing.
Yeah, just chant the mantra and let it stop and have space. If your mind gets noisy, bring up the mantra. Yeah. Fix this.
Sorry, Jim, just to clarify, did you say bring up the mantra only if your mind gets noisy?
The rule of thumb is this. The quieter your mind, the fewer meditative supports. The more noisy the mind, the grosser the mind, the more meditative supports. Did that make sense?
Yes.
So you get to figure that out.
Hmm.
You get to figure that out for yourself. Soumya, were you given a mantra in your Vedanta studies? Can't hear her. Okay. All right, let's sit. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Not a time to drink water. Set it down and sit. Stay vigilant. Let's come back into objective awareness now by chanting Om 3 times. Om. Om.
Mm.
Om. Open our eyes. So that was 20 minutes. How did you all do? Anybody want to share about how it was for them? Any challenges or experience?
I'll share. I found myself focused on the mantra, but in a constant tug of war with optimal planning after the mantra's done. Whatever I can focus for a few seconds and then we're gonna say, okay, good, you focused for a minute now, that's great. What are we gonna do after and how are we gonna do it the best way we could do it?
Yeah.
And that went on a lot. And I was at least able to take a back seat and watch it and not get involved. It was good to see how that worked. And it's very tricky and subtle because you can think about planning the rest of your day, or you can say to yourself, no, I'm meditating, I'm doing good. But even saying to yourself, I'm meditating, doing good, I go into the how am I going to make this better? And I can trick myself by saying, you are meditating, but how are you going to do this better? And instead of just being, and I was able to catch myself.
And do you see that that's what we call a klesha? That's a defilement, that's an affliction, and that's not real. It's just a strategy of the mind to not be quiet.
Yeah, and I was able to catch it, and I tried to combat that by telling myself I am not that, and I don't.
That's good.
Yeah,
That's fine.
all of
fine.
those things that I wanted to do, wanted to optimize, wanted to do better. I just tried to keep telling myself I'm not that, and
This is not a program of self-improvement. It is a program of self-abandonment, of self-forgetting. The self, I mean, is the small self, the Daryl.
there was a certain amount of fear that crept in when I would tell myself I'm not that, and try to abandon myself.
And you can just name it. Fear. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. That's a very effective tool. When interior experiences arise, just naming it helps us get that gap to see that I am not that, I'm the knower of it. Any thoughts on that? Good work. Plan to do better, no? All right, anybody else want to share? Who found it easy to use the mantra as opposed to the working with the breath?
I did.
All right. Again, I'm giving you, I call it the yogi's bag of tricks. The same meditation is not to be used all the time for all people. I should also now mention there are a whole series of mantras that we call bija mantras. These have no actual meaning, but they are seed sounds. So if you've ever been initiated into TM, anybody ever get initiated into transcendental meditation? These come from the Vedas. So like, for example, Hrim is one that's frequently used. Has no meaning, but occurs as a sacred sound. I wouldn't worry about it. I tend to like the mantras where they're focused on a particular deity or something like that. Anybody have anything else to add about meditation? Okay, your assignment this week, challenge, 20 minutes minimum. At least 5 of 7 days.
Do you think it would be okay that if you did 20 minutes, maybe set a bell to go up at 10 minutes and do the mantra for the first 10 minutes and the last 10 minutes observation? If that's what I want to play around with.
Sure.
You have to distract-
Meditation will teach you how to meditate. It's like riding a bicycle in that sense.
And then would you say that working with the breath as opposed to the mantra are really equal as far as the tool? Or
It's your choice.
so-
It's your choice. The other thing you can do with the mantra is it's really useful and powerful as you're going through your day. Who here may suffer from afflicting thoughts of regret for the past? Oh, I should have done that. Why didn't I do that? I'm such a terrible person. You know, this is so bad, and yet, rehashing the past. Who does that? Oh, you're all so enlightened. It's so good. But most of us do. And the mantra is very powerful. When that kind of thinking starts, bring it back to the mantra. What about worry about the future? What's going to happen? What if I lose my job? What if the stock market crashes? What if all the property values go down? What if my company lays me off? Who has those kind of thoughts? Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya. Or another one of my favorites, you know how you can tell you have a resentment? You're having conversations with people who aren't in the room.
Mhm.
Anybody ever have that particular klesha? Bring your mind back to the mantra. Very, very good. All right. Any other thoughts on using mantra and meditation?
I have some thoughts, maybe just, I guess, maybe reflection on the meditation just now. I found that mantra was very effective in just getting centered. I also found the sense of like openness in my body, sort of like I've never felt before. I've never done meditation with mantra. I've always done meditation with breath. And I felt about halfway through, I felt a sense of openness that I've never felt before, and it was nice, and it kind of made me think about, my thoughts are obviously running all this while too, not all this while, but I'm going in between thoughts and experience. There's a transient. How I was using the mantra was when my thoughts would kick in is when I'm using the mantra. I would use it for a few times and I would just like let go of it and then return to the breath. And I found myself oscillating between, catching myself in thought, moving to mantra, doing that for a little bit, and then returning to breath.
Play with it. But don't get fixated on physical sensations.
Mm.
I know in some of the Vipassana practices, you do a body scan. You put a lot of awareness and attention in the body.
Mhm.
Ultimately, you want to forget the body, not put all your attention in the body. You want to see the body as an object of cognition. You are not your body. But if you feel like you were saying openness in your body, notice it. It's just another thought. Does that make sense?
Mhm. I mean, even the fact that I'm saying that, says that implies, I think for myself that I have some attachment towards my body.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it. Any other thoughts on the
No.
practice?
I don't know if I was not doing, maybe I was doing it wrong. I found myself. I found my mind still wander with the japa.
Welcome to the human condition.
And
Yes, your mind will wander,
okay,
but the japa then just becomes a place to park your mind.
okay,
Swamiji used to tell this story. I can't tell it nearly as well as he did. Once upon a time, there was a fellow and he was walking along the beach and he came upon a lamp. And said, "Ooh, maybe there's a genie inside." Swamiji used to call him a jinn. So he rubs the lamp and out comes a jinn. And the jinn says, "I will do anything you ask me to do, but if you don't ask me to do something, I'm going to eat you." He says, "Oh, build me a palace." And the jinn builds him a palace. Ah. And he goes, "Bring me $1 million." And he brings me $1 million. Ah. What am I going to do? This is terrible, Jen. Travel all the way around the world and come back for more instructions. Goes all the way around the world. And then the fellow has a brilliant idea. "I want you to create a rope and have it straight up into the air. Then climb up the rope. And then when you're done, climb down the rope. And then climb up the rope and climb down the rope. And keep doing that until I need you to do something." Of course, the jinn is my mind. How do I keep my mind from attacking me? You give it something to do. But japa is such a powerful method. It gives the mind something to do that's essentially without karma. It's not about accomplishing anything, and it doesn't create any problems. It helps bring the mind to a single point. It's a good story. All right. The lesson for today, there's two things we're going to work on. How are we doing on it? We have half an hour. In the tradition of yoga, the ancients classified yoga into 4 great methodologies or schools or practices. They are karma yoga, bhakti yoga, raja yoga, jnana yoga. Karma yoga, the path of action. Bhakti yoga, the path of devotion. Excuse me. Raja yoga, the path of psychic development. Jnana yoga, the path of wisdom. Now, for those of you who've been Buddhist practitioners, Jnana yoga is the closest to Buddhist practice, unless you're in the Tibetan Tantric Buddhist tradition. Anybody done some study in that tradition? That's more along the Raja Yoga tradition. So they are designed for different temperaments of people. There are those people who tend to approach life through their body. They're physical sensation oriented. Excuse me. For these people, karma yoga, the path of selfless service, not only is efficacious, but it's appealing. Bhakti yoga is for people who tend to move through life through their emotions, their feelings. It's the path of love, the path of devotion. Christianity is a bhakti yoga. You love God until you disappear. Raja Yoga, paradoxically, is for people who are interested in powers. They want psychic development. They want fantastic health. They want to live 400 years, all that kind of stuff. Jnana Yoga is the most direct path, but it's the most austere path. It's not for everybody. It's the shortest path, but it involves an intense spirit of renunciation. And it's for those people who want truth, what's real. Now, many of you know I'm a foodie. I love to cook. So if you're cooking and what you have is a beautiful ripe tomato, and you have a dull knife, and you want to slice the tomato with the dull knife, what happens if you try to cut the tomato with the dull knife? What happens?
Smashed it.
Yeah. So what's the preparatory practice? Sharpen the knife. If you have an electric knife sharpener, and slices easily. Now, what happens if I just become fixated on sharpening the knife, thinking that's how to slice the tomato? Tomato isn't being sliced. What's the matter? Tomato wasn't sliced. I confuse the preparatory practice with the efficacious action. Does that make sense? There are practices in the tradition which are preparatory. Then there are the efficacious, the direct methodology for moksha, liberation. These 4 branches of yoga all have different preparatory practices. Listen carefully, it's not either or, it's first, then. Should I do pilgrimages? Should I do sacred baths? Should I do staying up all night chanting Hanuman Chalisa or Rudram Chamakam? Of course you can do these things. Puja, kirtan, but these in and of themselves will not liberate us. But they are valuable because they purify the mind. We are able to acquire chitta shuddhi, purity of mind. Any thoughts on this? So, what we're going to learn this morning is one of the most powerful, and it frequently gets short shrift. I want to be a Vedantin. No, Mandukya is the most subtle of all the Upanishads. Let's do that one first, because I'm an A+ student, I'm smart. Anybody have those kinds of ideas? And it's not really fruitful. So we have to be humble enough to start at the beginning. Now, if you've studied Bhagavad Gita, which I think is the greatest spiritual book ever written, first chapter sets forth our problem, the yoga of Arjuna grief. It describes the disintegrated personality. Chapter 2, Sankhya Yoga, is basically the table of contents chapter. He goes through all the major ideas. And then we have the last 18 verses, the Stita Prajna Purusha section, the marks of the person of steady wisdom. Then Vyasa, our poet, takes us all the way back to the beginning. And chapters 3, 4, and 5 are all about karma yoga. We don't even learn to meditate until chapter 6. So I'm going to condense the teaching in chapters 3, 4, and 5 for you. You will probably forget them. It's all right. If you want to look at them in depth, go to Bhagavad Gita and look at those 3 chapters, 3, 4, and 5. So let's set up how Vyasa, our poet, sets it all up. So Arjuna's there in the middle of the 2 armies, and he's having an emotional collapse. What am I gonna do? I'm gonna want to kill my relatives. Maybe we shouldn't be doing this, I'm gonna go off to the forest and meditate. He literally says that. And Krishna says, don't be a wuss. He literally says that. The word he uses is klaibyam. Very hard to translate. Wimp, wuss, effeminate. Get up and fight. He said, he starts whining. His hand starts shaking, his knees rattle, and he sits down in the chariot. I will not fight. And Lord Krishna goes, what a dolt. There's no solution to this, but we have to enlighten him right here on the battlefield. That's what happens. So the first element in karma yoga, first idea, Krishna says, get up and fight. No one gets freedom by running away from the world. Now, if it's your swadharma, your particular calling in life to enter a monastic life or an ascetic life, you'll know it. But that's very different than the person who, because of their dissatisfaction with their worldly life, because they're not successful enough, runs away from the world. I'm going to tell you another true story. So way back in 1968, I'm 20 years old. I'm at school, or actually I was flunking out of school at UC Santa Barbara. And there was a Vedanta Society temple there in Santa Barbara. And I went and talked with the Swami. They used to call him the old Swami. I think it's Swabhavananda was the one. Same one as Christopher Isherwood had. He would come up from LA to Santa Barbara. And I asked him to teach me to meditate. And he said, "Are you in school?" And I said, "No." And he said, "Are you working?" And I said, "No." And he said, "Do you do drugs?" And I lied. I said, "No." He looked at me and he said, "When was the last time you did drugs?" And I lied again. I said, 2 weeks. He said, "No." And he said, "Go back, either return to school or get a job. And when you haven't done drugs for 6 months, come back, and then I will teach you to meditate." I couldn't do it. My mind was too gross, too filled with fear. Took me another 7 years before I was pure enough to meet my teacher. But the important part of the story, get in school or get a job. So the first element in karma yoga is act. How should we act? So the word Gita uses is according to our swadharma. Dharma is the essence of a thing, the nature of a thing, without which it would not be the thing that it is. It's the dharma of fire to burn, it's the dharma of water to be wet, it's the dharma of sugar to be sweet. A river has a dharma that moves through time and space. It flows from a higher elevation to a lower elevation. Swadharma has to do with what is our calling, our vocation in this world. The word vocation is a really interesting one. It comes from the Latin vocare, which means to call. What are you called to do? Joseph Campbell used to call this following your bliss. You have a spiritual right to work at something you love. And none of us are kids. So if you're not working at something you love, you start by learning to love what you're doing and pay attention to what it is that you do that you love. For young people, I will frequently say, well, if you were independently wealthy, had all the education in the world, all the talent in the world, what would you be doing with your life? Oh, I'd be lying on the beach in Bali drinking Mai Tais. Well, that gets very boring very quickly. What would you be doing? Now, we don't want to postpone our lives. There was one young man I was working with. I asked him that question, and the reason was he was working as an administrator in a school. And what he really wanted to do was sing. Fabulous voice. And his idea was, well, I'm going to wait until I save up enough money so then I can go into my music career. And I said to him, if you work at this school for 10 years, in 10 years, you will be an excellent school administrator. You will not be a singer. The end is the means in a different form. So I said, if you were independently wealthy and had all the talent in the world and all the education in the world and all the connection in the world, what would you be doing with your life? And he said, I'd sing. And I said, then why the hell aren't you doing it now? This huge shift in his life. He actually just completed an MFA program. He's thinking about auditioning in New York, on Broadway. Loves academics, experimental theater, and stuff like that. He's got a whole life and career ahead of him, but he loves because he followed his Swadharma. Now, let me tell you the opposite idea. I have a friend. He's smart. He's always loved music and theater, but out of fear, he wanted to go into a profession that would be safe and secure and making money. So he got an education in finance and accounting, actually got an MBA degree. He really didn't like it. And for all the years I knew him, he was one failed job after another, and whenever he got on unemployment or got laid off he'd go to get a part in a show and some theater thing. And he was just as happy as a clam. Finally, he retired. Now he's doing theater and music, but at 80 years old, he can't really memorize a script anymore. So they do readers theater. I'm glad he's doing something. But he postponed his Swadharma. What might have happened if he had made that choice at 22 rather than at 75? Well, what do I do if I've got all these responsibilities? I'm in a profession that I hate. Well, do your best to love what you're doing and pay attention to what you enjoy doing. See if you can't move that ship of state into something that you enjoy. Now, in Buddhism, we have the idea of right livelihood. You will probably find you're happier if you're doing something that serves the society, that isn't damaging to you or other people. And that brings us to the third element. Act according to your Swadharma, the third element in the yajna spirit. What does yajna mean? You don't know? Hindus? What's a yajna?
It's suggest we describe it.
It's a Vedic sacrifice.
Sacrifice, yes.
Yeah,
A ritualistic sacrifice.
it's a ritualistic sacrifice. And in Gita, Krishna uses it as a metaphor of making everything sacred. He says, I'm the priest, I'm the preparation of the altar, I'm the fire, I'm the oblations that you put into it, and I'm the benefit that you get from it. It's all Krishna. So in the yajna spirit, we want to not approach life with what can I get out of it, but how can I serve? So whoever you think you work for, you really work for the Lord. If you're in sales, your customers are Krishna. If you work in the corporate world, Google's not your boss, it's Krishna. your co-workers, they're God. If you're a housewife or a house husband, your children are God. So we want to sanctify our work. There's a prayer that I love. It was written by a Franciscan named Father Michael Judge. He was the chaplain to the New York City Fire Department. He was the first recorded death in 9/11. And his prayer is, God, take me where you want me to go. Let me meet who you want me to meet. Tell me what you want me to say and keep me out of your way. This whole idea of living our lives as a dedication to God. Good morning, God. This is Jim reporting for duty today. What do you want me to do? How can I serve you and your holy people? How can I spend myself in love today? Empty it all out. Don't hold back. Act according to your inherent latent proclivities, your swadharma, in the spirit of selfless service. Swamiji was once asked, in the Chinmaya mission, Swamiji, what's your title? I mean, it's amazing. Now they call him Puja Guru Dev, worshipful, godlike teacher. That's what he said. What's your title, Swamiji? And he thought for a moment and he said, Mukhya Sevak. What's that mean?
Chief servant.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you manage or lead out of intimidation or fear? Or are you a servant leader? The yajna spirit. Keeping on time. Fourth element. Krishna says, thy right is to work alone, never to the karma phalam, the fruits of action. All we get in life is work. The fruits belong to God. Krishna says, I am the karma phala data. I'm the giver of the fruits of action. You may work your tail off on some project and oops, doesn't work. I've had this discussion with Vinayak as a scientist. Pours his heart and soul into some experimental engineering project and it doesn't work. You've got to let go of the fruits. Or one that's very real. You may have friends who are here on H-1B visas. Maybe you are. Building a life in the United States. Government may change the rules. You never know. When I was teaching voice, a question I would frequently ask young people, do you want to be a musician or do you want to be a celebrity? by a celebrity. I want to be a famous opera singer. I would say, I cannot, no one can guarantee that you're going to be famous to be a celebrity. If that's your goal, go be a Kardashian. But if you want to be a musician, it will happen if you love music and you love making music. Now, if you do it in these elements of karma yoga, you got a better chance of being successful. No guarantees. So if you're in a career and it's all about, I want to make $1 million by the time I'm 40 or 30, and that's my goal, and I'm going to suffer till I get there. God help you. You might make it. It may not make you happy, probably won't. Money doesn't make people happy. But if you're working at something that you're alienated from, you're certainly not going to have much fun along the way. Work is the highest form of play. Play is the highest form of work. I can only tell you about my own experience. When I had my church job and the holy days would come along, Christmas and Easter, and I had a budget to hire a full orchestra and professional singers and got to do all this stuff, work my tail off. Then I'd come home after the service and I'd say, I can't believe they pay me to do this. It's so much fun. That's how we're designed to live. You can have it if you set it as a goal. Now, the last element, renouncing our identification with the sense of agency. In chapter 5 of Gita, Krishna goes into who or what is the agent. And he uses the language guna and karma. Guna meaning the qualities of mind, karma meaning the force of the past. And the idea here is you're gonna do what you're gonna do. This is your prarabdha karma, the karma of this lifetime. You could not have done any differently. Let go of regret for the past. Well, what about the future? Should I take this job or that job? Make a choice. But in a sense, it's all written. You're going to do what you're going to do. And happiness is independent of that. But we'll get more deeply into an understanding of this renunciation of the karta, the sense of agency. Review. Act according to your swadharma, your inherent latent proclivities, in the yajna spirit, in the spirit of selfless service, renouncing our attachment to the fruits of action and our identification with the sense of agency. This is just a brief overview of karma yoga. Karma yoga is sharpening that knife. So when we get into atma vichara, inquiry into the nature of myself, the mind is purer. What we do is exhaust vasana without creating new ones. Karma yoga. Any thoughts or questions about it? All right, we'll end here.